The less you know, the less you're frightened. How did you get started? लिक्विड को आप दो अलग गैस बना रहे हो, हाइड्रोजन बना रहे हो, ऑक्सीजन बना रहे हो. आसान बात नहीं है. I consider myself rootless. I'm a bit of a nomad. That's going to change now is that it's going to be green jobs and green energy. What made you say that the risk was something that you could digest? Were you worried about failure? Every year for the last 7 years, I think I've always said, oh, I didn't perceive any risk. The best thing to do is to just start, go headlong. The less you know, the less you're frightened. 7 years later, I have to admit, I think I was pretty scared when OSIS started. We use industrial wastewater as the starting material to make green hydrogen. I am Suruchi Rao. I'm the co-founder and CEO of OSIS Biorenewables. It's a bit of a mouthful, but what we do is also a little bit complicated. We're a green hydrogen company, but depending on how much you know about the sector, we don't do things the way others do. We use industrial wastewater as the starting material to make green hydrogen. OSIS is about 7 years old now. We turned 7 this year. People always ask you, how did you get started? We didn't have a ready-made technology. The company and the product that it's developed hasn't really come from a university. This is a bunch of us who came together to solve one very simple problem, which was to deny the world's claim that there's only one way to make green hydrogen. We said, no, there's a different way and it's our way. But yes, it's taken us 7 years to admit that for the last 7 years we've been fairly worried and we've never consciously spoken about the challenges that come with developing technology here in India. Deep tech is tough, hardware is tougher. For the last 7 years we've just lied to ourselves and said, ho jayega. 7 years later, touch wood, by God's grace, I think all of that faith and belief and fear has sort of transitioned into something where it's not just us who see value in what we do, it's paying customers who do so too. So, bit of a roller coaster last 7 years, but good place to be in right now. I wouldn't say that I have one town that I would call home. I consider myself rootless. I'm a bit of a nomad. More than 7 years, I used to say 5 years now, but I've pushed it to 7. More than 7 years in a city and I start to feel, time to move on. That's probably because, when you grow up around kids who normalize moving every 7 years, somebody's dad is in the army, someone's dad's in the navy, someone's dad or mom working for the government. So you think that this tribe that you have for like these 5-7 years is fantastic. Abhi next kahan ja rahe hain? Coincidentally, and it overlaps, I'm sure, psychologically with what I've chosen to do and the whole quest for green hydrogen. My dad comes from traditional energy. He's a geologist, he's an oil and gas man. So to be very honest, I don't know anything else but energy. So it's not surprising maybe to find myself here. Of course, we've taken very different paths. People would say that oil and gas is the reason why we are in the situation that we are with climate change and global warming and all the effects or side effects that we're having to deal with now. But I'd like to say energy is energy. At the end of the day, everybody builds businesses so that they can create an economy, have people employed with jobs, just like my dad. That's the reason I have had the opportunity and the privilege to be educated. I have a PhD from Udacity. Could probably not have happened without this government sector job in energy. And the only thing that's going to change now is that it's going to be green jobs and green energy, and our focus is going to be on changing the way we live and how we fuel ourselves. But the root of that is still the same. It's not just my dad. My mom's a professional. She's a lawyer. She's the one who made most of the money in our household. So I've had 2 people that I could look up to, and they were both very aware of what it meant to be ambitious rather than just earn a living. A lot of these sort of things that I constantly try and relate to what I'm doing now, probably because even I'm wondering how I landed up here. I had a chance encounter with someone who was my PhD advisor's friend. Now, He's not traditionally sort of formally educated, but he's fairly wealthy. He owns sugar plants and he owns sort of distilleries. Half the year they grow sugar, the rest of the year they process that sugar. And one day his plant was shut down. In a strange twist of fate, the sort of closure notice was in English. So he rushed over to my prof and he said, I have no idea what's going on. I've been running this plant. I'm a third generation sugar guy. I've been running this plant for the last 40 years. What's going on? And my professor said, you've been dumping your wastewater in your backyard and the Pollution Control Board has shut down your plant. Now, imagine somebody who's been doing something for the last 40 years. He's never encountered Pollution Control Board. He says, I have no idea about this. There's an effluent collector. Effluent is basically what you would call industrial wastewater. कोई आता है, ट्रक लाता है, पिकअप करता है पानी, कहीं तो जाता है, मुझे नहीं पता. ये अब मेरी रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी कैसे होगी? प्रोफेसर इज लाइक, पीछे जाके वो ट्रक आप ही के फैक्ट्री के पीछे डंप कर रहा है, तो रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी आप ही की है. So then the conversation turns into, let's talk about what it means to set up a wastewater treatment plant. I have to handle this, I have to get my plant started back up again. And that's when my professor says, look into this. Let's talk about what's the kind of innovations happening in industrial wastewater treatment. Maybe we can help our friend out. All my research shows me that for the last 40 years, there's not much innovation that has been happening in this field. Wastewater, particularly for industries, is a problem. It's a cost, kharcha. Government pakdega, plant band kar dega. I have to treat it, handle it, deal with it. The larger the company, the larger the fear associated with wastewater. So these guys haven't really thought much about doing anything. They're like, as long as it's like safely disposed of, not even reused, it's good. By 2050, that amount of water is going to be 50 billion liters. It's insane. I don't think any of us can comprehend how much water that is. Imagine what is being consumed and it's being thrown away. India is an economy which is growing. As a sort of government, as well as a country, we are heavily focusing on manufacturing. So a requirement of water is only going to go up. So why hasn't there been any change in the way we do these things? So that's where I thought, what can you do with waste other than to convert it to value? My PhD was in the conversion of agricultural waste to ethanol, but that wasn't an opportunity that I thought that was large enough. On the other hand, was an opportunity, and there was a person, a problem that I could sort of help solve for, and that's how OSIS started. The choice of green hydrogen was purely coincidental. So that's how OSIS started, from identifying wastewater as the problem and the opportunity, rather than, oh, let's go make some hydrogen. Water, any form of water, H2O ka H is the most abundant hydrogen you can get. Now, the only problem with that is, all of us have a general understanding that pani se stable kuch aur ho sakta hai. You use it as a diluent, you use it as the most common thing in our day-to-day lives and in the industry and in the world. Imagine trying to break that. लिक्विड को आप दो अलग गैस बना रहे हो, हाइड्रोजन बना रहे हो, ऑक्सीजन बना रहे हो. आसान बात नहीं है. The amount of energy required to split that water is so high that it becomes unviable economically. The only way to make it viable is by subsidizing the cost of energy that goes into it. Now, अगर पेट्रोल से एनर्जी बनाए और उससे हाइड्रोजन बनाए तो कोई फ़ायदा नहीं है. So you have to rely on wind and solar, renewable energy, to split water. Energy requirement कम नहीं हुआ, economics को change करते हैं. Now there's many different kinds of hydrogen. Again, not really based on chemistry. There's pink hydrogen, where hydrogen is made using nuclear energy. So you can imagine, when you're talking about nuclear energy to make a molecule which is as common as natural gas, what we're talking about in terms of energy consumption. It's कहते हैं ना, to repeat something over and over again and expect a different result is the definition of insanity. That is exactly what's been happening with green hydrogen for the last 100 years across the globe, not just India. And we need to change that. India's hydrogen policy is about 3 years old now, and we had set a target of 5 million tons of green hydrogen to be produced each year indigenously, which is matlab India mein. That number has now been bumped up to 7.5 million ton per year. So why is there a bump up when the production hasn't yet started? Where did that first 5 million tons per year number come from? This may be surprising to know, but there are two sectors in India and globally which consume the most amount of hydrogen. This would happen to be ammonia, refineries, urea, which is all part of the same sort of industrial complex. Second is refineries. You cannot process crude oil or gas without using hydrogen. That's how you upgrade fuels. Now, these two sectors in India were pegged to be consuming about 5 million ton per year. This is not very clean hydrogen, and that is why the replacement of this hydrogen with indigenously produced green hydrogen was what Indian government decided would be the first sort of target. What changed in less than 12 months, right? The requirement for hydrogen is something that is growing not just in these two industries, which is it's plateaued, let us say. India is becoming increasingly an exporter of chemicals and goods that require hydrogen as a raw material. Now, this is the reason why the consumption of hydrogen, which was initially predicted to grow at the rate of 5 to 10 to 15, is now actually said to be growing exponentially. And the first sort of litmus test that the government has passed on this front is to say, I'm going to try and produce more. The second area that many people may not know about is that India thinks it can become the next hub for green hydrogen, which means it believes it is building substantial capacity to become the largest exporter of green hydrogen in this country. That's the kind of effort, funding, capital. 20,000 crores for one mission, one policy is unprecedented. And that's because the government realizes this goes beyond just decarbonization, and it goes into a financial opportunity for the exchequer that they would like to capitalize on. Now, in terms of where that 7.5 additional capacity is going to come, if it is additional capacity, the government has made it clear, and OSIS is a company is sort of benefited from large players in the steel sector having recognized fairly early on that the only way to decarbonize their sector is to use green hydrogen. Now, what is decarbonization? We all know that industries are, I think, the second or the third largest contributor of CO2, greenhouse gases. They're the reason why we're in the trouble that we're in. There are some sectors that are known as hard to abate sectors. Now, the reason they're called hard to abate is that one very easy shortcut we seem to have discovered for decarbonization is to electrify everything. Going back into the whole building renewable energy capacity, the way China has sort of made it very easy to set up solar plants and wind plants and scaled up manufacturing of all of the basic units required for renewable energy. But these hard to abate sectors require an energy density. Let's put it this way, when you need to burn something, electricity is not really going to do the job. You need to rely on sources which look and act very similar to fossil fuels. Now, this is where hydrogen is the option for industrial decarbonization. Hard to abate sectors include steel, a very specific type of chemical called ethylene. You can lump in the general chemical sector also in this field, and cement. For all of these sectors, hydrogen is the go-to molecule, and they've been investing in it for a very long time. Now, the government believes that this 2.5 million excess capacity that it has added, it can drive by creating policy now which will address the demand side, make it mandatory to use 5% of all energy sources for the steel sector coming from hydrogen, incentivize the use of hydrogen as part of general operations. Now, obviously the question or the concern that industries have is, मिलेगा मुझे इतना सारा and मिलेगा at the same cost. चलिए same तो कोई नहीं expect कर रहा है as coal, which is their sort of fossil fuel of choice, but will I get something that doesn't bust the bank for me? Will I end up losing my profits because I'm having to decarbonize at a rate which is far more rapid than what I would want? That balance, I think, is going to come through in the next 2-3 years. We started with the idea that wastewater is an opportunity. Now, why did we say it's an opportunity? Industrial wastewater has to be very tightly controlled from the time it is made to the time it is disposed after treatment legally. What this means is that if you're looking for feedstock or raw material to make green hydrogen, this is the most consistent one. This is the one that nobody is going to charge you extra money for. And for us, the most advantageous. We believe in the thesis that industries stand to gain the most from being decarbonized using green hydrogen. You cannot use electrons to decarbonize. तो जहाँ पे feedstock है या raw material है to make the green hydrogen, वहीं पे ही consumption है. What this does is that instead of trying to solve for अब hydrogen को बनाना है, ट्रांसपोर्ट करना है, स्टोर करना है, एलिमिनेट दैट एंटायर इश्यू एंड से सर आपको हाइड्रोजन चाहिए, हम आज बना के देंगे, आप यहीं पे यूज़ करो, आपको हाइड्रोजन ट्रांसपोर्ट करने की ज़रूरत नहीं है, यू जस्ट हैव टू ट्रांसपोर्ट योर वेस्ट वाटर टू वेयर ओसिस का प्लांट इज. नाउ वेरी ब्रीफली व्हाट वी डू, एंड वी हैव बीन अक्यूज्ड quite fairly, I would say, of having a technology that's very hard to understand. What we have developed is basically a process where very similar to when you split water, electrons, basically what allows electricity around us to flow, and protons, which are known as H plus ions, combine to make hydrogen gas. हमारे केस में electrons का source is the content of the industrial wastewater. In the case of water splitting, electron ka source is solar and wind. That's the only difference. Now, when I say the source of our electrons happens to be the content of wastewater, this is where, I hope everybody remembers their school chemistry, organic chemistry specifically. There's a lot of carbon content or organic content available in this wastewater. अभी ये normally क्या होता है, CO2 बन के again adds to atmospheric CO2. In our case, however, instead of getting converted to CO2, these get converted to electricity. And that electricity is what we use to make hydrogen gas. Now, as you can imagine, splitting water, as we had briefly spoken about, requires about 55 units of power for every kilogram of hydrogen. In our case, because you're using organic content in wastewater, and this is where our intervention comes in, we use living biomaterials, is how we prefer to refer to them, as the sort of catalyst to convert this organic content into hydrogen gas. This living biomaterial is what takes very little energy, less than 2 units for every kilogram of hydrogen. Now that is the major difference between splitting water and being able to produce hydrogen without breaking the bank on the amount of power that is required. We have a long way to go. और हम wait करते जाएंगे अगर we imagine that all installed capacity will go towards hydrogen, which is obviously not feasible. The second thing here is the amount of water that is required to make this hydrogen, right? Again, 5 or 7.5 million tons per year is 75 or 50 billion tons of ultra pure water. Just a quick reminder, 55 million people in India go without access to clean drinking water. And now we're trying to talk about exacerbating that problem by saying, thoda hydrogen bana lete hain. So we think this is not very sustainable. Our solution tries to solve for exactly that. 2 unit use कीजिए आप, less than 2 units. Don't use clean water, use wastewater. Produce hydrogen where it is used. No need to store, no need to transport. Produced where it will be consumed. Problem is solved. Now the only thing in terms of where we need to get to is to get to scale. We've spent the last 7 years building this technology from scratch. We've had great help, of course, from our investors. We've also had great help from one of our early supporters, which was a large company in the steel industry. Shell is another partner that we turn to quite frequently, which means that we've been in an industrial environment right from the start, where जिनका problem solve करना था, उनके साथ हम रोज बैठ पाते हैं. So the technology in the last 7 years has gotten to a point where we're able to directly get to site. We now have a total installed capacity of about 2,000 kilograms of hydrogen, or 2 tons per day of hydrogen, and we use less than 2 units to do that. And the future for us basically is trying to replicate this model. We believe we are fairly confident about how much we control this technology, but we ourselves have realized that green hydrogen is probably just, the first molecule. The core of our technology is this biomaterial, and how we develop it and how we're able to scale it up, which we've gotten really good at. So the use cases for where these materials can be used, what other molecules can be made, wastewater ke alawa aur kya waste hai, CO2 for example. Those are the sort of 5-year, 10-year plans that we have. But for the next 5 years, we're here to sort of get to that 1 million ton per year. Just us, just OSIS, using industrial wastewater.